Hello and welcome to another technical analysis tutorial. Today we want to talk about a chart pattern which is called head and shoulders. Head and shoulders is a reversal pattern, which means that we move from a one trend which is going into one direction, in this case an uptrend. We are reversing into a downtrend. And this chart pattern that you can see here is the so-called head and shoulders pattern. Why is it called head and shoulders? Well, we've got one head, which is the high, which is the high in the middle, and then you have one shoulder on the left and you have one shoulder on the right. This is sometimes more clear and sometimes less clear. It is rarely as beautiful as this one because this is very clearly a head and shoulders. Sometimes it's a bit harder to spot. I mean, sometimes you have something like this head is a bit weird anyway. You've got one lower high here and then a higher high. But this is sometimes, sometimes you have two shoulders or things like that. But this is pretty much what it is. You have to be able to identify one shoulder at least, one head and another shoulder. And the common thing is you need to have a baseline, which you can identify here, which is oftentimes a support or resistance level. And this is the so-called neckline, under which when that breaks, you then get the break to the downside. These are the elements that you need to have a head and shoulders pattern. There is also a head and shoulders pattern which is called the inverse head and shoulders, which is the other way around, which would just be you would have it on the other side, where then there would be a reversal to the upside. So this one will be a reversal to the downside, whereas an inverse head and shoulders will be a reversal to the upside. As I said, it's a reversal pattern, so it just changes the direction of the trend. And it's not just because of, people always say, it's just head and shoulders, a bit stupid. Why would they change the trend? Well, there is, because you need to understand the underlying price action. And by the way, this works on any time frame in any market, whether you use the hourly, the 4 hour or the daily or even the weekly, doesn't matter. What happens essentially here is that you were actually coming from the left hand side. You did make a new high. You were in an uptrend. Quite a strong rejection already, but then you made another high, but you can already see that the momentum is slowing down. That's essentially what it is. So you have very strong momentum here, then you move very, very fast to the upside. The buyers are really pushing the price higher, then another consolidation, which is normal. But then in the next move to the upside, you can see the distance from that high to that high and then to that high. You can clearly see how the momentum is slowing down. And then you would also see that on the RSI, the momentum indicator, how that would go down. You would have a bearish divergence on the RSI. So this is essentially what it is. You don't necessarily need these indicators if you can understand and read the price action properly. You don't need things like the RSI, for example, but they can be very helpful. Well, what you can clearly see here then is it's losing momentum already. Then you have another probably loss in momentum where again, the buyers have difficulties to push the price much higher. And then essentially what then happens is already a stronger rejection here. We made actually a lower low compared to that one. That doesn't need to take place. That sometimes take place, but there was clearly still support of that level here. And then the buyers couldn't push the price higher than the previous high. So when you have a new high, which is already losing, where the trend is losing momentum, you have a loss in momentum, even though you still make new highs, but you have a loss in momentum. And then the next step is a lower high. That is a strong indication that there will be a trend reversal. And that is just what a head and shoulders pattern is. And on top of that, you can use, as support, you can use moving averages, for example. You can see that here, this was the 20 and the 50-day moving average. We're actually crossing below that already here. And coupled with that, then that pretty strong move to the downside here. Then we retested that former support level. It was then resistance where we actually managed on this side here. Before we managed to get into that shoulder, we actually made it back in with that huge green candle. We didn't do it here, so we rejected. We tested actually that resistance level, so it was support before, but then we tested, it became resistance, and then we moved into the downtrend. That is essentially what a head and shoulders is. So a loss in momentum, usually coming from an uptrend, loss in momentum, very hard for the buyers to make new highs, then essentially a lower high and then a break to the downside below the neckline. And how to trade this? Well, you could trade it, for example, when you break through that neckline and you could even trade it like that, but that is more risky. Or you wait for a retest, and then if the retest is successful, that means we have it confirmed as a new resistance, then you could trade it as a short position basically. And it works the other way around as well, to the upside if you have an inverse head and shoulder, but I might do a separate video on that. That's pretty much head and shoulder. Sometimes a bit more difficult to spot, but if you understand the underlying the underlying moves that the price is actually doing, that for example you have a lost momentum and buyers are struggling to push the price higher, then you don't need to understand that you necessarily need to look for head and shoulders. You just look for that this idea that you are losing momentum and that buyers can't push the price higher. We failed to make a new high, and then it could be that reversal coming. All right, hopefully that was useful. If you liked it, please smash the like button, and if you want to follow me on this technical analysis journey, then please subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.